Chapter 3 of The Plum and the Golden Based Chongzhen version of the embroidered portrait definitely beat out the princess for accepting bribes and set a trap for the prodigal son to pick him up. Private Life poem says, they didn't know each other at first, but Zusi seems to be in love. Make love in front of the cup and fall in love with your eyes at the bottom of the flower. Duen was surprised by the new situation and asked about his old name. The shadow contains tonight's candle, and my thoughts are mixed. Wang Po of Ximen wanted to meet the female son, so she said, Goddess, please tell me if this thing is done. I will give you 10 taels of silver. Wang Po said, Master, listen, I said, the word exposed is the most difficult. What is exposed? For example, it requires 5 things. The first thing is Panan's appearance. The second is to have a large amount of goods. The third is to be as rich as Deng Tong. The fourth is to be young and to be as soft and patient as a needle. The fifth is to have leisure time, which is called Pan Donkey and Deng Shao. It's all done. Ximen King said, to tell you the truth, I had these 5 things. Yes. Secondly, when I was a child, I traveled around 3 streets and 2 alleys, and I once raised a big turtle. Thirdly, my family also has a lot of money, and although it is not as good as Deng Tong, I can still live well. Fourthly, I am the most patient. He beat me 400 times and never expected me to hit him back. Fifthly, I have the most free time, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. Godmother, you can do it yourself. When it is complete, I will thank you sincerely. Wang Po said, Official, you said you have all 5 things, but I know there is one more thing that disturbs you, and it probably won't work. Ximen King said, tell me, what one thing is disturbing? Wang Po said, don't blame me, senior official. The old man said frankly that it is the most difficult thing to spend money. Even if you spend 10 cents of money, it will be difficult. I know that you have always been stingy and don't want to spend money carelessly. This is the only thing that bothers you. It's easy. I just listened to your words. Wang Po said, if the high official is willing to give money, I have a clever plan. I must ask the high official to meet this girl. Ximen King said, what good plan do you have? Wang Po smiled and said, it's too late today. Let's go back and discuss it in 6 months and 3 months. Wang Po laughed and said, the high officials are panicking again. Although I can't get into King Wucheng's temple with this plan, it is better than Sun Wuzi teaching female soldiers. He will catch you 9 times out of 10. I will tell you today, the origin of this female child is that although she was born in a humble age, she is very talented and can play and sing well. She can also play needlework, play hundreds of songs, and play chess. Her nickname is Jinlian, and her maiden name is Pan. She was originally from Nanmen. The daughter of Wei Pan was sold to Zhang Die's family to learn how to play and sing. Later, because the wealthy family was old, she gave him up and made her his wife for nothing. Sit down. If he has something to do, he will ask me to take care of him. He also asks me to be his godmother. If a high-ranking official wants to do this, he will buy a piece of blue silk, a piece of white silk, and a piece of white silk. Then I used 10 taels of good cotton and gave it to me. But I walked over and asked him to borrow a calendar date, asking him to pick a good date, and ask a tailor to make it. If he saw me saying this, he would pick a date. If he is willing to do it with me, the matter will be over. If he happily says, I will do it for you, then it will be a good thing. I know the materials well. If he comes, he will sew it for me, and the light will be divided. If he comes, I will arrange some wine, food and snacks for him at noon. If he says it is not convenient, he will do it at home, and the matter will be over. When he ate without saying a word, the light became threefold. You didn't come on this day until the 3rd day, around noon. You dressed up neatly, and with a cough as a sign, you shouted in front of the door, why haven't you seen Wang Ganiang for days? I'll buy some tea. I will come out and invite you to sit in the room and have tea. If he gets up and goes back when he sees you, can I hold him back? The matter was settled. If he sees you coming in and does not move, the light will be 4-fold. When I sat down, I said to my daughter, this is the official who donated my clothes. I'd rather kill him. Then I exaggerate the many benefits of officials, and you show off their pointers. If he does not come to solicit and agree, the matter will be over. If he agrees to talk to you, this light will be 5 points. I then said, but it's hard for this lady and me to do this. I will kill your two donors, one for the money and the other for the effort. It's not that we are separated from each other. It's rare that this lady is here. And the official can be the master and water the lady's hands. Then, you take out the money and ask me to buy it. If he leaves, should I hold him back? The matter was settled. If he does not move, things will be easy to accomplish. And this light will be 6 points. But I took the money and said to him when I was leaving, Mei Pai, in good order, my lady, please sit down with me. If he gets up and goes home, won't I be able to stop him? The matter was settled. If he didn't get up and get better, the light would be 7 points. After I put the things I bought on the table, I said, Madam, please go and clean up your life. And have a glass of wine. It's rare for this official to waste money. He refused to eat at the same table with you. So he left and the matter was settled. If he didn't get up, then the matter would be fine again. The light would be 8 points. When he was full of wine and was talking about entering Hong Kong, I reasoned that the wine was gone and asked you to buy it again. You took the money and asked me to buy wine and fruits to go with the wine. I closed the door and locked you two in the room. If he is anxious and runs away, the matter will be over. If he is dragged to the door by me and is not anxious, the light will have 9 points and only 1 point will be lost. It's just that this is difficult. When you, the high official, are in the room, you can say a few sweet words, but don't get angry and disturb things with your hands and feet. I won't care about you at that time. You first put your sleeves down on the table and put down a pair of chopsticks. Then, you picked up the chopsticks and put your hands on his feet to pinch them. If he gets into trouble, I will come to rescue him. This matter is over, and it will never happen again. If he remains silent, the matter would be very clear. This is just perfect. How can you thank me? Simon King was overjoyed after hearing this and said, although you can't go to Lingyan Pavilion, Godmother, this plan of yours is a great one. Wang Po said, but don't forget to promise me the 10 taels of silver. Commentary. It's important. Simon King said, I have to eat a piece of orange peel. And don't forget Dongding Lake. When will my godmother be able to make this plan work? Po said, I can only get rewarded if I come tonight. I will go over and ask him before he returns from Wuhan University. Let me tell him in detail. Please hurry up and send me some silk and cotton. Don't be late. Simon King said, Goddess, this is my business. How dare you break your promise? So he said goodbye. Grandma Wang, after leaving the tea shop, went to the street and bought 3 pieces of silk and 12 ounces of pure water. The family asked Daener to wrap it in a felt bag and send it to Mrs. Wang's house. Wang Po happily accepted it and sent the boy back. Exactly, when the clouds and rain in Wushan will come, don't let King Xiang build the Chu Tower. At that moment, Mrs. Wang collected the silk and cotton, opened the back door, and walked past Wu's family. The woman then went to sit upstairs. Wang Po said, why don't you just have tea with a poor family in the past 2 days? The woman said, it's just that I have been unhappy these days and I am too lazy to walk around. Wang Po said, Madam, I have a calendar day at home, so I can take a look at it. I want to have a day of tailoring. The woman said, what kind of clothes do you want to make? Wang Po said, it's just because I'm sick and in pain, and my son is not at home. Why is the eldest brother missing all the time? Wang Po asked. That guy was out with a guest, and I didn't hear any news from him. I'm worried every day. The woman asked, how old is your eldest brother? Wang Po said, how old is that guy? Yes. The woman said, why don't you find a marriage with him? You have to do all the work here. Wang Po said, because there is no one in the family to treat me. I have to wait for him to find someone for him sooner or later, but I don't care anymore. I see that I am only wheezing and coughing day and night. My body is broken. I can't sleep. I only feel pain for a while. First of all, you need to prepare the clothes for your death. It is rare for a rich official to always have tea in a poor family. Whenever he sees a doctor in the house, buys a maid, talks about marriage, and takes care of the elderly in all matters. He also gives alms. I bought a set of clothes for my mother-in-law as a gift. This is also a taboo of the Queen Mother. I have kept it at home for more than a year. I feel that it is too difficult to make a living this year. It was a leap month, and I had 3 days to do it. The tailor refused to do it because I was busy with my life. I can't believe how hard it is." The woman laughed and said, "I'm afraid the servant will do it." I didn't like it. Commentary: if you don't mind the time, how about doing it with your godmother? I've heard that my wife is good at this, but I don't dare to come to Xiangyang. The woman said, "Why don't you marry your godmother?" I went to ask someone to pick out the good days of the zodiac, and the slave took action. Wang Po said, "I don't know how much you know about your poetry. How can you tell someone to read the calendar?" The woman said with a smile, "My family has been out of school since childhood." The mother-in-law said, "Easy to say, easy to say." She took the calendar and handed it to the woman. The woman took it in her hand, looked at it once, and said, "Tomorrow is a bad day. And the day after tomorrow will not be good. The day after tomorrow will not be the day of tailoring." Wang Po took the calendar with her hand and hung it on the wall. He said, "If the lady is willing to have sex with me, it will be a little lucky star." Side comment: the old trader is very clever. Why choose a day? I also thought that tomorrow is a bad day, and I only want to use it as a tailoring day. Pori, I don't care about him. The woman said, "Just use Pori for your birthday clothes." Wang Po said, "Since I'm willing to do it, I'm brave. I just want to go to Han's house tomorrow." The woman said, "Why don't you come over and do it?" Wang Po said, "Even though I am old, I still want to watch my wife do her life, and I am afraid that there will be no one in the family." The woman said, "In that case, I will come over after dinner tomorrow." I thanked him deeply and went downstairs. He replied to Simon King that night and agreed to come the day after. There was no words to say that night. Early the next morning, Mrs. Wang tidied the room, prepared her sewing, arranged tea, and waited at home. Let's say that Wu Da had breakfast and went out on his own with a load on his back. The woman hung up the curtain, told Yinger to look after the house, and walked through the back door to Mrs. Wang's house. The woman was so happy that she went into the room and sat down. Then she ordered a cup of walnut and pine nut tea and ate it with the woman. After wiping the table clean, he took out 3 pieces of silk. The woman measured the length, cut it completely, and began to sew it up. The old lady looked at it and couldn't help but cheer. "What a trick! I have lived for 60 or 70 years, and I have never seen such a good needle in my eyes." He was treated to wine and food, and a bowl of noodles was served to the woman. After sewing for a while, it would be late next time, so I packed up my life and went home. Just as Wu Da's lad came in, the woman pulled the curtain down. When Wu Da entered the room, he saw his wife's face was slightly red and asked, "Where are you coming from?" The woman replied, "It's the lady in the next room who asked me to make some clothes for the funeral and arrange some wine, food and snacks for me during the day. You don't want to eat what he has. We also have other things to do. He asked you to make clothes, and you came back to eat some snacks. If it's not worth it, just mess with him. When you do it again tomorrow, bring some money with you and buy some food and wine to repay him as a gift. As the saying goes, a distant relative is better than a close neighbor. If he refuses to give you a gift in return, just take your life and come home and do it to him." Exactly. The mother's cage is designed to be deep, and the old man is ignorant and ignorant. Bringing money to buy wine as a reward for cheating, but giving away your wife. Side comment: the saying is common but true. After hearing what Wu Da said, the woman had nothing to say that night. After dinner the next day, Wu Da went out to carry the burden, and Wang Po came over to greet him. The woman went to his house, took out some living things, and sewed them together. Wang Po hurriedly ordered tea and came to have tea with him. Look at the seam. At noon, the woman took out 300 coins from her sleeve and said to Wang Po, "Goddess, I will buy you a drink." Wang Po said, "Ah, there is such a truth. I'm sorry. How can I pay my wife to make a living here? I won't be hurt if I don't eat the wine and food. My biao. It's not modest, but it's a conclusion." The woman said, "But I ordered the slave to come. If the godmother comes out, she will just leave the house and return the favor to the godmother." After hearing this, the woman said, "The old man knows what happened. Since when the lady said this, please accept it." The woman was afraid of disturbing things, so she added money to buy good wine and food, and treated her with hospitality. The judge heard, "You are a very delicate woman in the world, but you can be manipulated 10 or 9 times by small things." The mother-in-law arranged wine, food and snacks and ate with the woman. After sewing for a while, I saw how late it was and returned home with many thanks. Stop talking. After breakfast on the third day, Mrs. Wang went out with Zhang Wu, walked past the back door and called out, "Madam, I'm brave." The woman from upstairs responded, "I'm waiting for you." The two servants met. I came to Wang Po's room and sat down, taking out my life to sew. Needless to say, the old lady ordered tea. The woman looked at her sewing until around noon, but he said that Simon Kingbo would not arrive on this day, and commented, "It's better to wait." Dressed neatly, with 3 to 5 tails of silver at his side, and a Jinshuan fan in his hand, he waddled towards Xixi Street. When he arrived at Mrs. Wang's door, he coughed and said, "Wang Qianyang, why haven't you seen me for days?" The old woman looked at the subject and said, "Who is calling me?" Simon King said, "It's me." The old woman rushed out. After looking at it, he said with a smile, "I just want to know who it is. It turns out to be a high-ranking official. You came just in time. Please come into the house and have a look." He dragged Simon King into the room with his sleeves and said to the woman humanity said, "This is the official who donated the clothes and materials to me." Simon King opened his eyes and looked at the woman. Her clouds were covered with green. Her pink face was full of spring. She was wearing a white shirt, a pink skirt, and a blue armor, and she was making clothes in the room. Seeing Simon King coming over, he lowered his head. Side comment, Maisie. Simon King quickly bent forward and sang. The woman immediately gave up her life and returned the blessing. Wang Po then said, "It's rare for an official to make silk and silk for an old man. He has kept it at home for more than a year and has never been able to make it. It's a shame that the lady next door took the initiative to make it with me. It's really a cloth machine and it seems to be a good needle and thread. The stitching is so good and dense. It's really rare. Sir, come here and take a look." Simon King picked up the clothes and looked at them, and said while cheering, "This lady has such good stitches. What a magic trick." The woman lowered her head and said with a smile, "Don't laugh at me, officials." Commentary. Here we go. Simon King asked Wang Po, "Godmother, don't dare to ask. Whose wife is this lady?" Wang Po said, "Guess." Simon King said, "How can you guess this?" Wang Po laughed. "Official, please take a seat," he said. "I'll tell you." Then Simon King sat down opposite the woman. The woman said, "It's good for the officials to know. You walked under the eaves that day and beat me just right." Simon King said, "It was the one who beat me on the bull at the front of the door that day. I don't know whose house it is." "Madam," the woman lowered her head and said with a smile, "Don't blame me for the accidental collision that day." Eyebrows, extremely affectionate. Simon King responded quickly, "I don't dare." Wang Po said, "This is it, but she is Madam Wu from Jianbi." Simon King said, "That's it. I have lost my sight." Wang Po looked at the woman and said, "Madam, do you know this official?" The woman said, "I don't know." The mother-in-law said, "This official is a rich man in this county. The county magistrate also associates with him. He is called Simon Dogwanren. The family has tens of millions of dollars and opens a medicine shop in front of the county gate. The money in the family is like a big dipper. The rice is rotten into a warehouse. The yellow ones are gold, the white ones are silver, the round ones are pearls, and the shining ones are treasures. There are also rhinoceros heads. In the upper corner, there are teeth in the mouth of an elephant. His eldest wife is also the matchmaker I am talking about. She is a girl from Wuqian whose family. She is very talented." Yin asked, "How can a high-ranking official only drink tea from a poor family?" Simon King said, "It's just that the little girl at home has been married for a few days, so she has no time to come." The mother-in-law said, "Who is the eldest sister? Why don't you invite me to go to the matchmaker?" Simon King said, "Being 80-year-old in Tokyo, Admiral Yang of Wanjing Army has settled in Chen's house. His son, Chen Jingxi, is only 17 years old and is still in school. He has a married woman here to ask for help, and I have him stay at home. Sister-in-law Zhu, who sells green flowers, is from Baoshan. If my godmother is willing to go, I will send someone to invite you for tea tomorrow." The mother-in-law laughed and said, "I'm fooling the high officials. I am a matchmaker who was raised by a son of a bitch, and they didn't have me when they were planning to get married. How could they be willing to pay for the cooked meal? After spending 3 days and 5 days casually, I went out to get some favors and got a table and a half, so it was serious. How easy it was to fight with others. The two said one after another. The mother-in-law only praised Simon King and made false noises, so the woman lowered her head and sewed. Water nature is always female, and she often steals from her husband with outsiders. The golden lotus heart loves Simon King, but the lustful spring heart is not free. Simon King was overjoyed to see Jin Liang affectionately, and wished they could get married. Wang Po then went to order 2 cups of tea, handed one to Simon King and the other to the woman, and said, "Madam, please treat the officials to some tea." Zhuang looked at Simon King again, touched his face with his hand, and said, "Simon King already has 5 points of light." Since ancient times, it has been said that tea is the matchmaker, and wine is the matchmaker. Wang Po then said, "If the official doesn't come, I don't dare to go to the house to invite him." One of them happened to meet by chance, and the two came at the right time. As the saying goes, a guest can't bother to hosts. The official just pays. Yes, this lady has contributed a lot, so I have to kill you to benefactors. It's not that I have trouble with you. It's rare that this lady is here. I can be my master and spend some money to buy some wine and food with you. Madam, how about watering your hands? Simon King said, "You can't even see me here. There is money here." He took out about 1 or 2 pieces from the eggplant bag and handed it to Wang Po for food and drinks. The woman said, "There is no need for suffering." She could not get up as she spoke. Wang Po took the money and said before leaving the house, "I'd like to have you sit with the official, madam, and I'll come right away." The woman said, "My godmother is excused." But she didn't move. Eyebrow criticism. The place where the body is motionless, it is the place where the heart is moving. Wang Po then went out, leaving Simon King and the woman in the house. Simon King didn't move his eyes, only looking at the woman. The old lady also glanced at Simon King secretly, and went about her daily life with her head down. Not long after, Mrs. Wang bought some fat goose and roast duck, cooked meat and fresh bream, and delicate fruits. When she came back, she filled the dishes and placed them on the table in the room. Looking at the woman, she said, "Madam, please clean up your life, and have a glass of wine." The woman said, "You eat with the officials, but you are not a slave." The woman said, "It's just for me to drink water with you." "Why do you say this?" Putting the plate of food in front of them, the 3 of them sat down and poured the wine. Simon King picked up the wine cup and said, "My godmother, please treat me to a few glasses of wine." The woman thanked her and said, "I don't have enough food for you to eat." Wang Po said, "I heard that my wife drank a lot, so please enjoy 2 glasses of wine, cup." The woman took the wine in her hand and wished each of them blessings. Simon King picked up the chopsticks and said, "My godmother, help me persuade my wife to get some vegetables." The woman picked out the dishes and handed them over to the woman to eat. After pouring the wine 3 times in a row, the woman went to boil the wine. Simon King said, "I don't dare to ask. How young is the lady?" The woman bowed her head and replied, 25 years old. Simon King said, "The lady comes to the same Jiang as a Lily family member, and she is also a dragon in Jiangchen. He is on the 15th day of the 8th month." The woman responded, "The heavens and the earth will kill the slaves." Wang Po then interjected, "What a fine lady. She is so smart that she is not in vain. I have a good hand in needlework. I know a lot about Chuanglu chess and Chinese characters." Simon King said, "Where can I go to ask for it? There are many people in the house. How can I find a lady like this?" Simon King said, "It's just like this. It's hard to describe. It's just that the poor man has never found a good lady in his family." Simon King said, "Don't talk about it. If my late wife was still alive, the house would be empty, and now there would be only 3 or 5 people around to eat, and no one would do anything." Said, "Even I have forgotten. How many years has it been without a eldest lady?" Simon King said, "I can't say. The villain's first wife, Mrs. Chen, although she is from a humble background, is very clever and smart, and her eyebrows are all meaningful. Yes, I have done everything for him. Unfortunately, it has been 3 years since I married this cheap man, and he is often sick. Why is the villain just walking out? When I'm at home, I feel sick." The mother-in-law said, "Sir, Please don't blame me for telling you so bluntly. Neither your wife nor my wife is as skilled as this lady, Simon King said. That's it. The servants are not as charming as this lady. Commentary. Wonderful. Mei Pai, such affection. How can it be compared with the two officials of Wu? The old woman smiled and said, My lord, why don't you invite me to tea in the outer house you raise on the East Street? Simon King said, That's Zhang Shichun, who sings slow songs. I saw him as Lu. I don't like him. The mother-in-law said again. You and Li Zhaoer and Gulan will never live together. Simon King said, If you find that he is the head of the family, he will be the head of the family. Wang Po said, How do you get along with second sister Zhuo? Simon King said, Don't mention Zhuo Dyer. I also had a minor illness at home, but it's gone. The mother-in-law said, Yeah. If there is someone who is as popular as the lady, it's okay to come to the house and tell me. Simon King said, My parents are gone. I can take matters into my own hands. Who dares to say no? Wang Po said, I'm so anxious to find such a popular person. Simon King said, What can I do? I just hate that my husband and I have a weak relationship, so we don't bump into each other. Simon King exchanged words with his mother-in-law. Wang Po said, It was time to have a drink, but it was gone. Officials, please don't blame me. How about buying a bottle of wine to eat? Simon King then put some 3 or 4 taels of silver into the eggplant bag and gave it to Wang. The mother-in-law said, Godmother, take it. When you want to eat, just take it. If there is too much, the godmother will take it away. The mother-in-law thanked her and stood up. When I looked at the pink head, after 3 hours of drinking, my heart was roused, and my words were full of meaning. I just lowered my head and did not get up. Exactly, the love between the eyes and eyebrows is not over, and the marriage coincides with the romance. Wang Po is greedy and has no other skills. She just talks and talks.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.